Discover the incredible power of love, a touching, life-changing film you've never seen before. Sarah woke up before the sun kissed the horizon, the familiar weight of responsibility pressing down on her. As a single mother in Oak Ridge, a small town where gossip flowed as freely as the coffee at the diner where she worked, every morning was a battle. She slipped on her faded uniform, a daily reminder of the love and dreams she carried for her two children, Emily and Jacob. Each plate she served eggs fried to perfection, pancakes stacked high wasn't just a meal, but a crucial step toward a future where her late mother's secret recipes would fill the warm, inviting air of her own bakery, yet, the world outside seemed cold. The clinks of silverware hid the whispers of disdain from the wealthier folks in town, their eyes rolling at her patched-up clothes as she navigated the market. But beneath the surface, Oak Ridge pulsed with life. The community potlucks held old stories wrapped in laughter, and the annual festivals showcased vibrant traditions where joy flowed, even when money didn't. But everything changed when sleek businessman Mr. Bennett rolled into town with dreams of demolishing their cherished Main Street to plant a corporate chain store. Tension brewed, rivals were drawn, and accusations began to fly like darts. As Sarah volunteered at the community center, organizing food drives, she felt the weight of the town's anxieties on her shoulders. They were talking about progress, but she saw it differently. It felt like betrayal. One evening, as she joined locals gathered to discuss Mr. Bennett's plans, a kettle of emotions simmered over. Some folks saw a chance for more jobs, but Sarah's heart raced with indignation. "What about our dreams?" she yelled, her voice trembling. Gazes turned on her, heavy with judgment, and the air thickened. Would they tear down the very fabric that held them together? Then, the news dropped like a bomb. Mr. Bennett's chain would demolish her grandmother's old building, the very place Sarah envisioned for her bakery. The memories flooded her, her mother's warm giggles, the sweet aroma of cinnamon rolls wafting through the air. Anger and grief intertwined in her chest. Could they really erase not just her dreams, but her family's legacy? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With her heart pounding, just hours before a critical town hall meeting, Sarah sat with her children, remembering her mother's belief that love and unity could conquer all. Fueled by that undying spirit, she gathered her courage to rally the community against the encroaching tide of corporate interest. What they stood to lose was more significant than profits. It was their identity. As the town hall approached, emotions ran high. Faces hardened by fear and frustration stared into the abyss of uncertainty amidst a community that felt splintered and fragile. Sarah positioned herself to speak, feeling all eyes on her as anger and hope danced in the room. Would her voice rise above the clamor? Would they hear her plea, or would ambition crumble their world? The clock ticked ominously as Sarah stood at the front of the crowded town hall, her palms sweaty and her heart racing. Dark wood paneling surrounded her, casting a solemn mood over the gathering. The chatter faded into a low murmur, and all she could focus on were the faces turned toward her, some with apprehension, others with curiosity, and a few with outright disdain. Taking a deep breath, she cleared her throat, seeking the right words amidst the surge of emotions: unity, love, hope. "We've all built lives here," she began, her voice shaky but resolute. "This town, our town, means something. Each store, each home, carries a story, a memory. To tear it down for a corporate chain is to erase us." She caught the eye of an older woman in the back, Mrs. Thompson, who owned the flower shop longer than Sarah had been alive. Mrs. Thompson had stood by Sarah's family during tough times, and her gentle smile gave Sarah a surge of confidence. As if to encourage her, Mrs. Thompson nodded slowly, her head slightly bobbing with understanding. "I remember my mother making fresh pies in that building. The laughter, the joy, it's a piece of my heart," Sarah continued, her voice thickening with emotion. She could feel the warmth of memories enveloping her, bringing tears to her eyes. We are more than just statistics on a balance sheet. We are family, friends, a community. Murmurs spread through the room, and she could see some of her neighbors shifting in their seats. It was like a spark, the flicker of hope igniting in the darkness. Please, don't let them take away our past and future. Let us stand together, as a family does, and fight for what we love. A hushed silence filled the room. Then a brave voice broke through, a man named Paul who had been quiet until now. Sarah's right. We need to stay true to who we are. He stood, nodding as others joined him, rising to their feet, emboldened by the strength of their shared purpose. They were gaining momentum, belief radiating through the fabric of the hall, but Sarah could feel her own fear clawing back, the possibility of failure lingering like a shadow. When push comes to shove, she thought, will I have the strength to follow through? As people shared their stories of family businesses, cherished memories, and what Oakridge meant to them, a wave of emotion washed over Sarah. Tears stung her eyes, but they were tears of pride and solidarity. They weren't just fighting for a bakery, they were standing up for their identity, their hearts, and their lives. But then, amid the rising hope, a chilling thought struck her. What if Mr. Bennet had more power than any of them realized? What if he had made promises that would undermine their courage? The questions gnawed at her resolve, reminding her that the battle ahead wasn't just about speeches. It would take determination and unity. The room buzzed with renewed spirit, faces bright with passion, but as she looked around, Sarah's heart sank. A familiar face among the crowd shifted uncomfortably at the back. Mr. Bennet himself had slipped in, arms crossed, watching with an amused expression, as if to say he had already won. With a deep breath, Sarah clenched her fists. What now? She wondered. How could they possibly outmaneuver someone who wore confidence like a suit? As her mind raced, the meeting continued with emotions running high. But Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that the real battle was just beginning, and a new fight loomed on the horizon. Would they let that corporate titan steal their dreams, or could they come together to forge a future that honored their past? The urgency hung heavy in the air, and as the evening wore on, one thought echoed through the depths of Sarah's heart: what was she willing to lose to save it all? The atmosphere in the town hall shifted suddenly. What had been a haven of support began to feel like a pressure cooker ready to explode. Sarah glanced at Mr. Bennet again, his faint smirk sending chills down her spine. It was clear he thought this was all a game, one he was winning. She couldn't let that stand. Let us be honest, Sarah interrupted, her voice ringing out again. Mr. Bennet believes he can come into our lives, our town, and take what has been hard-earned by so many. But he doesn't know us. He hasn't felt the warmth of a summer evening on Oakridge's streets, or heard the laughter from the cafes that fill our memories. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. It was like someone had channeled the spirit of Oakridge into one voice, and it thrilled Sarah. Each word she spoke fueled her energy, lit her spirit. She could feel her community rallying, standing with her, united against the tide of change. Beside her, Paul motioned for attention, his voice booming as he stepped forward. Let me tell you about the old diner. My parents worked there for years. The day they handed me the keys, I was the proudest 10-year-old in town. That diner is part of my soul. If we let Mr. Bennet bulldoze our history, what will we have left? The crowd erupted as stories poured forth, one after another: a beloved library, a mom-and-pop hardware store, and the sweet little bookstore run by Mrs. Thompson herself. Each tale echoed in Sarah's heart, strengthening her resolve. It became clear, this was not just about buildings, but about preserving a legacy. Yet, in the middle of their shared passion, a familiar knot twisted in Sarah's stomach. Amidst all their strength, she felt helpless. What if it's not enough? She bit her lip, grappling with fears of inadequacy. She could inspire her neighbors, but could she inspire change? The night dragged on, faces growing more determined and animated, but behind that determination lay an unspoken fear. Mr. Bennet shifted in his seat, jotting notes, a dangerous glint in his eyes. Did he have something up his sleeve? Was he plotting ways to dismantle their unity? Just then, Sarah remembered an old saying her grandmother used to tell her, "It's the quiet ones you have to watch." Suddenly, she thought about Mrs. Thompson. The older woman had a subtle wisdom, a quiet strength rooted deep in the community. Perhaps, Sarah pondered, there was a way to turn this around. Taking a step back, she scanned the room, her gaze landing on Mrs. Thompson once more. What if we didn't just fight? What if we adapted? What if we showed Mr. Bennet the heart of this community? What if we highlighted our potential? The crowd paused, and Sarah's heart raced. We need to knock him off guard. Let us come up with a plan, everyone. Let us hold a community fair. We'll showcase our story, our businesses, our lives. We'll invite Mr. Bennet, and let him see what we have to offer. Let him realize we're worth more than just being pushed aside. An electric silence fell as her neighbors absorbed her words. Then, someone began to clap, a gentle sound that grew into a crescendo, echoing against the wooden walls. Paul's face broke into a huge grin, and soon, voices rose in agreement. Let us do it. Someone shouted. Sarah's heart swelled as hope poured back into the room. They were not just going to sit back and let Mr. Bennet take everything away. They would showcase their love for Oakridge and all it represented. The challenge was daunting, but her determination burned bright. As the meeting wrapped up, a frantic energy buzzed through the hall, but just as they began to organize themselves, Sarah felt the weight of uncertainty return. What if Mr. Bennet plays dirty? What if he tries to sabotage our fair? She needed to prepare for whatever might be thrown their way. As her community buzzed about ideas and enthusiasm filled the air, one thought lingered in Sarah's mind: would their passion translate into victory, or would the heart and soul of Oakridge be lost forever? Planning the community fair consumed every thought Sarah had in the days that followed. The excitement electrified Oakridge, as neighbors banded together, bringing their ideas and talents to the forefront. Every evening, they gathered in the town hall, working long hours to transform Sarah's dream into reality. They brainstormed ideas for booths and activities, everything from local crafts to baking contests. Mrs. Thompson volunteered to showcase her book collection, sharing stories of Oakridge's past through tales of its beloved characters. Paul rallied local chefs to whip up dishes from long-forgotten recipes, wanting to serve home on a plate. It felt like the entire town was uniting with a common goal: to stand against Mr. Bennet and celebrate what they cherished. Yet in the midst of all this fervor, shadows loomed. Sarah sensed the impending storm, a tension curling in the air like the first bite of winter. Late nights turned into early mornings, and as they embraced the whirlwind of creativity, her worries began to seep into conversations. What happens if Mr. Bennet doesn't like what we present? What if he finds a way to tear it down even before it starts? The question echoed, heavy in Sarah's mind. Every morning, she awoke feeling the throbbing pulse of anxiety but also a flicker of determination nagging at her spirit. They had to put on a show that would turn the tide, imbuing their love for Oakridge into every element of the fair. But fear gnawed at her, the sinking realization that Mr. Bennet seemed always one step ahead. He was wealthy, powerful, and used to getting what he wanted. Then came the day of the fair. A brilliant blue sky stretched over Oakridge, setting the stage for the event. Colorful bunting hung like a celebration around the town square, and booths lined the sidewalks, filled with chatter and laughter. Sarah took a moment to absorb it all, her heart swelling as she watched familiar faces buzz with excitement, but just as they began to enjoy the fruits of their labor, something felt off. Sarah noticed a group of unfamiliar faces lingering around the outskirts of the fair, their expressions intense and calculating. Strange cars lined the street, and her unease sharpened. Were these Mr. Bennet's people? Had he sent them to sabotage what they had built? She glanced at Paul, who was juggling small plates of food, laughter bubbling between him and a couple of townsfolk. "I've got a bad feeling about this," she said quietly, her heart racing. Paul took a moment, noticing the apprehension in her eyes. "You can't let him ruin this, Sarah. We've come too far to give in to fear." Encouraged by her friend's words, Sarah stepped out from behind the booth and took a breath, the air rich with the aroma of fried dough and spices. She found herself drawn toward the edges of the fair, where the strange faces lingered, that a voice caught her attention, just loud enough for her to hear. "This place is a joke. They think love can save their town." One man scoffed, sharing a laugh with his accomplices. Sarah's heart sank. They weren't just spies, they were here to undermine everything they stood for, but she wouldn't be rattled. Not today. Steeling herself, she took a step back, feeling a tidal wave of courage swell inside. She needed to protect what the fair represented, what Oak Ridge truly meant among its people. The skies above might have been bright, but Sarah could sense storm clouds brewing. Could she confront this threat? Could love and unity shield her town from the encroaching darkness? As the laughter and music swelled, she made a decision. She would not let rage and spite extinguish her family's legacy. It was time to stand tall. But the question remained, would it be enough to face the ruthless forces threatening their beloved community? With her heart pounding, she moved through the crowd. Little did she know, a confrontation was waiting just around the corner, one that could change everything. As Sarah navigated through the throngs of cheerful faces, her mind raced. With each step, she felt the weight of Oak Ridge resting on her shoulders. Voices floated around her, laughter mingling with the sweet scents of cinnamon and caramel. Yet, all she could see were the shadows lurking at the edges of the fair, the unfamiliar faces that watched with cold curiosity. Where were they from? What did they want? It felt as if her heartbeat matched the drum of the music, filling the air, a steady thump holding the promise of joy but echoing fear in subtle undertones. "Stay strong, Sarah," she whispered to herself, pushing through the crowd with determination. She finally spotted the group, their laughter a harsh contrast to the warm ambience of the fair. One man, tall and burly with a cigarette dangling from his lips, appeared to be directing his attention toward a booth where Mrs. Thompson was excitedly sharing a story about the town's founding. Sarah's heart raced as she approached, her grip tightening on the fabric of her dress. "Yeah, and what's to stop us from tearing all this down?" The man spat out, his voice dripping with contempt. "Looks like a photo op gone wrong to me." His companions snickered in agreement, jesting with each other as they jutted their chins towards the townsfolk lost in happy conversation. Sarah's blood boiled. This wasn't just an event, this was a culmination of hope and unity stitched into the fabric of their community. Without thinking, she stepped forward, her voice cutting through the laughter. "Hey! Why don't you keep your judgments to yourself? We're proud of what we're building here." All eyes turned toward her, the laughter fading into a stunned silence. The harsh faces of the group fell into a mix of surprise and amusement. The burly man took a step closer, invading her personal space. "And you think shouting will change anything? You're just a kid playing house." "I'm not a kid," she shot back, her voice steadier than she felt. "I'm trying to save my home, our home. You have no idea what Oak Ridge means to us." Before the man could respond, Paul appeared beside her, his presence wrapping around her like a shield. "You don't belong here. If you're not interested in supporting our community, you can leave." His voice was firm yet calm, a weighty contrast to the chaos swirling around them. The group exchanged glances, now uncertain. They were expecting fear, but instead, they were facing unity. The murmurs of support swelled from the nearby townspeople who had been listening. "Yeah. Go back where you came from. This is our fair, and we won't be intimidated." A surge of pride washed over Sarah as cheers erupted around her. The tide was shifting. The darkness threatened to creep in, but light was piercing through in the form of community resilience. She glanced at Paul, who met her gaze with a smile that sparkled with encouragement, but then, just as the cheers echoed, the burly man took out a phone, promptly snapping a photo. "You'll regret this," he sneered. "Mr. Bennett, 1T stand for your little fool's paradise." Her heart dropped as he retreated, his laughter ringing in her ears like a warning bell. Sarah felt a shiver of fear creep up her spine. This wasn't just a confrontation, it was a declaration of war. The fair had transformed from a celebration into a battlefield. With a deep breath, she turned back to the townsfolk. "We can't let fear win. The fair is for every one of us, and we'll stand together." The crowd erupted with cheers once more, their spirits rekindled, but Sarah knew they were merely bolstering bravado. Paul looked unsure, his worry creeping back. "What do we do now?" he asked, concern etched across his face. "We keep fighting. We keep celebrating," Sarah replied, but doubt gnawed at her heart. "But how do we prepare for what's coming?" The answer hung in the air like a threat, and as she scanned the crowd, she felt both the hope and anxiety of Oakridge merging into something palpable. The battle for her community was just beginning, and Sarah realized that the stakes were higher than she ever imagined. Would their love and unity be enough against Mr. Bennett's looming threat? As the sun dipped lower, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, she knew the night was far from over. Sarah stood at the edge of the fairground, her heart racing beneath the weight of uncertainty. The night air was thick with the scent of kettle corn and the sounds of laughter, but all she could focus on were the distant murmurs of discontent. She felt a chill sweep through her as she cast a glance back at the group. Their silhouettes stood out like dark smoke against the vibrant lights. "Simon, Sarah," Paul urged, his hand resting gently on her shoulder, grounding her in the moment. "Let us get everyone together. We need to figure out our next move." With a resolute nod, she turned, ready to harness the buzzing energy of the crowd around them. "We just need to remind the town why we're celebrating tonight and what Oakridge is all about." They made their way through the throng of people, where familiar faces greeted her. Ms. Parker waved from her post at the hot dog stand, her smile wide and infectious, and Sarah couldn't help but return it. It was little moments like these that brought her back to the heart of why they were here: laughter, unity, community. "Everyone!" Sarah called out, raising her hands to capture their attention. The chatter faded, and eyes turned toward her, curious and eager. Tonight is more than just food and games. It's a celebration of everything that makes Oakridge special. Cheers erupted once again, and the warmth of the crowd's enthusiasm wrapped around her like a comforting blanket. Yet, she knew the lurking shadows were still there, their presence a vile reminder that not everything was right. "I know we've had some interruptions," she continued, a crack of uncertainty weaving into her voice. "But we cannot let anyone destroy what we've built together." Paul stepped closer, his eyes scanning the crowd as he chimed in, "Oakridge thrives on love and support. We have each other, and that's what matters most. Let us make the night count." Several people yelled out in agreement, their faces lit with determination. The night felt alive again, but Sarah's mind remained restless. They staved off one confrontation, but she couldn't shake the sensation that more challenges awaited them. As the sun dipped lower, the colorful lights illuminated their faces, sparking a renewed momentum within the crowd. "Let us make this a night to remember," Sarah cried. "Let us dance, sing, and show that fear has no place here." And then she saw him, the burly man from earlier, hovering at the edge of the fair, phone in hand. He showcased an expression of contempt just beneath the flashing lights, ready to capture their joy and twist it into mockery. Her heart sank anew, but she refused to look away. "Hey!" she shouted, causing heads to turn. "We're proud of our roots, and no one can take that away from us. You can laugh all you want, but together, we are strong. Together, we are Oakridge." The climax of cheers erupted from her fellow townsfolk, their voices melding into a chorus of unwavering support. But as Sarah surveyed the faces around her, she noticed the flicker of hesitation in Paul's eyes. "I don't think this is over," he murmured, leaning closer. "We need to be ready." Her stomach twisted. What would Mr. Bennett do next? What would their fight mean for tomorrow? She felt the weight of farewell against the joy they were trying to create, and doubt twisted within her like a tight knot. "We will find a way," she whispered to herself, taking a deep breath. "We just have to believe." In that moment, amid the vibrant lights and laughter, hope surged through Sarah. The struggle ahead loomed even larger, but she could feel the resilience in her veins. They weren't just a fair, this was a crowd bound by love for one another, and that made all the difference. What would it take to truly fight back? As Sarah surveyed the faces filled with laughter and fear alike, she recognized the challenge ahead wouldn't just be waged battle by battle, it would be an all-out war for the soul of their community, what sacrifices would be made, and who would stand with her when the moment of truth arrived. Sarah took a moment to breathe as the crowd's cheers washed over her. She didn't want to dwell on the gnawing sense of unease that Mr. Bennett's presence brought. Instead, she clung to the unity around her, a thread of hope stitching them all together. The music overhead pulsed with a rhythm that thrummed in her chest, calling everyone to join in on the celebration. "Let us dance!" Someone shouted, and before Sarah knew it, people were moving, laughter bubbling up like a fountain. Colorful lights flickered around them, and just for a moment, she allowed herself to be swept up in the joy, arms raised high and feet dancing across the ground. But then, like a shadow creeping in through a window, her mind flicked back to the reality waiting beyond the fairground. Each laugh and smile from the crowd felt like a fleeting chance. Every joyous moment was another tick of the clock before that looming confrontation. "Sarah!" Paul called, crashing through her thoughts. He pointed toward a small crowd forming near the game stalls. "Look over there." Curiosity ignited panic in her chest. She moved through the throng, heart pounding with urgency. A group of teenagers had gathered around a brightly lit booth, where they were tossing rings onto bottlenecks to win prizes. Yet, rather than simply playing, Sarah saw their faces twisted in frustration as they pointed and jeered at the man from before. "Mr. Bennett. He's taking photos of us." One of the girls shouted, her hands balling into fists. "Look at him mocking us." A wave of tension swelled, like the stillness before a storm. Sarah stepped forward, her voice rising above the chorus of complaints. "Wait. Everyone, listen." She could feel all eyes on her, a mix of admiration and confusion dancing across their faces. "We can't let him ruin our night. If we let him get to us, then he wins. But he's making fun of us." Another girl protested, hurt lacing her words. A murmur spread through the crowd, worry creeping in. Sarah's heart raced, but she held her ground, desperately trying to anchor them in hope. "Then let us show him who we really are. Let us fill this fair with laughter he can't touch." With that, she locked eyes with Paul, who stood beside her, determination etched across his features. "What do you think?" he asked, his voice low but steady. Through the sea of uncertainty, she could almost hear the whispers of the crowd coming alive again, like embers being fanned into flame. "Let us turn our backs to him. Show him he doesn't matter." The idea sparked in her, igniting the crowd behind her. Slowly, without hesitation, people began to turn around. One by one, they all faced away from Mr. Bennett, choosing instead to face each other. In that simple act, something shifted in the air. "See?" Paul smiled, catching her eye. "Together. We are stronger." Sarah felt that knot in her stomach loosen just a little, determination surged through her again. Just then, Ms. Parker's optimistic voice rang out, "How about a group dance? Let us prove him wrong." Laughter burst forth like popcorn popping under heat, and as the music swelled again, they broke into claps and dance. The result sparkled in the atmosphere, a vibrant tapestry of togetherness, defiance, and love painting over the dark shadow that threatened to encroach, but just as the moment took flight, a flash of light caught Sarah's attention. Mr. Bennett had stepped closer, his phone capturing everything, the unity that he intended to belittle, now immortalized in pixels. Her resolve shook, the familiar fear crept in again. What would this do for them? Would he twist this joy, tearing at the fabric of their community? As she watched, determination sparkled in her eyes. "If he wants a show, then we'll give him one," she whispered, more to herself than anyone else. A plan was brewing, one that could confront him without fear. What if this night could change everything? What if by standing together, they could regrow the roots of Oak Ridge into something even stronger? Excitement mingled with worry flooded her heart, but the rhythm of celebration pushed her forward. This was just the beginning. As she looked around at the supportive faces, the question lingered in her mind: what lengths would they go to, standing united against their enemy? The energy swirled around Sarah, infectious and electric. The crowd danced with abandon, laughter soaring above the music, drowning out the looming threat of Mr. Bennet. Each gust of happiness seemed to deflate the unease that clamored in her chest. But she couldn't shake the feeling that this brief reprieve was a fragile bubble ready to burst. Sarah. Paul's voice cut through her thoughts like a knife. Look. Everyone's joining in. She turned to see more familiar faces joining the circle, drawn in by the laughter and the beat. Some had been hesitant, but now they were caught up in the moment. The weight of Mr. Bennet's mockery began to fade. Let us do something fun. One boy shouted enthusiastically. How about a dance-off? A cheer erupted as a young girl stepped forward, her eyes gleaming with mischief. I volunteer. She punctuated her declaration with a series of wild spins that sent the crowd into another wave of laughter. As people paired up for the impromptu competition, energy flowed between each dancer. Sarah felt a willingness to let go of the fear that had been gnawing at her. The music was a heartbeat, steady and inviting, coaxing her from the shadows of worry. Come on, Sarah. Paul nudged her lightly, a playful grin on his face. Let us show them what we've got. With a deep breath, she joined him, her feet moving almost on instinct. They moved in unison, laughing as they stumbled through their improvised routines. Laughter and applause surrounded them, and for that moment, it felt as if nothing could touch their joy. But in the back of her mind, the image of Mr. Bennet glaring from a distance lingered. He seemed to be reveling in capturing their joy, his laughter almost mocking. Every click of his camera further solidified their need to fight back, to take control of the narrative he was trying to spin. Let us make this a challenge, she suggested, turning to Paul and the dancers around them. A dance-off to raise our spirits and drown him out. What do you say? The crowd erupted into cheers. Adrenaline surged through Sarah as her plan began to crystallize. They could turn this moment into a celebration not just of joy, but of resistance, a symbol of standing firm against the darkness encroaching on their lives. Okay, everyone. Here's how it's going to go, she rallied, her voice cutting through the excitement. Couples against couples. Let us see your best moves. Whoever wins gets to choose the next song. The energy shifted, it became a game, a means to reclaim their night. Sarah felt her heart swell at the idea that they could flip the script. Each kick and spin would serve as a reminder to Mr. Bennet that they were not just victims, they were vibrant and alive. As the first couple dazzled the crowd with their fancy footwork, Sarah caught Paul's eye, a silent agreement passed between them. This was about more than just dancing. It was about showing not only Mr. Bennet but also themselves that they belonged here, that they weren't going to hide from mockery. But then, just as the first round concluded, a call came from the outskirts of the fair. A voice filled with authority pierced the joyful atmosphere. What is going on here? It was Mr. Bennet's voice, draped in condescension. The festive whirl of the crowd faltered, uncertainty creeping back in like an unwelcome chill. Sarah's heart thudded painfully against her ribs. What would he do next? Would he attempt to put a definitive end to their night of joy? As a hush fell around them, she realized the moment of truth was upon them. Would they stand together and confront him, or would fear take them down? Tension hung in the air as all eyes turned toward the source of the interruption. What would happen next? The crowd shifted uneasily as Mr. Bennet stepped closer, his brow furrowing with disapproval. The contagious joy that had filled the air now felt strained, like a balloon on the verge of bursting. Sarah swallowed hard, trying to find her voice against the rising tide of fear. Everyone's just having fun, a girl named Mia called out, her voice shaky but defiant. We're not hurting anyone. Mr. Bennet raised an eyebrow, scanning the group as if evaluating a bunch of unruly children rather than vibrant young people trying to celebrate life. You think this is appropriate? This isn't some playground. You're all supposed to be adults. A murmur of indignation rippled through the crowd. Sarah felt her chest tighten as anger began to rise within her. How could he not see the good in their joy? They weren't merely dancing, they were reclaiming everything he had tried to take from them. Adrenaline surged as she stepped forward, pulling Paul along with her. And who made you the judge of fun? She challenged, her heart racing. We're not going to let you ruin our night. The crowd gasped at her words, a collective intake of breath. For a second, the air crackled with tension. Mr. Bennett's face turned a shade darker, clearly not expecting a challenge from Sarah. His eyes seemed to narrow as if he were weighing his response. Fun? He scoffed, his tone sharp. You think this is fun? You're being foolish. You should be ashamed of yourselves. But instead of retreating, the crowd rallied around Sarah, each moment of support a thread weaving them closer together. Encouraged by the unity, she raised her chin. If we're ashamed, it's for not standing up to bullies like you. Paul squeezed her hand, that small gesture grounding her in the midst of the storm. The crowd erupted into cheers, their voices drowning out Mr. Bennett's skepticism. They began to clap slowly at first, then rapidly building into a rhythm that matched the pulse of the music still playing in the background. Encouraged by the support, Sarah scanned the faces around her. Everyone was ready, the tension melted away, transforming into a shared determination. This is our moment. She shouted over the noise. Let us dance for real. Together. With a flick of her wrist, she gestured for everyone to follow her lead. The music swelled as she broke into a lively step, moving directly toward Mr. Bennett. It wasn't about confrontation anymore. It was about celebration. And as if drawn by an invisible force, others joined, forming a loose circle around the pair. The defiance was contagious. In seconds, the crowd danced again, their movements weaving their declaration of joy and hope. Each twirl was an act of resistance, every laugh a rebuttal to Mr. Bennett's disdain. Fools! Mr. Bennett yelled, but his voice was lost amidst the pulsating rhythm and laughter of the crowd. Suddenly, children from all around the fair joined in, drawn by the infectious spirit that had taken hold. Adults watched, some shaking their heads, others clearly entertained. Sarah felt swept away into the heart of the moment, her worries suspended as they danced with abandon. When she paused to catch her breath, she looked over to find Paul grinning widely. You've started something incredible, he said, eyes shining with excitement. But then, as she turned back to the crowd, she noticed Mr. Bennett retreating, not before snapping photos with frantic speed, his plans to humiliate thwarted by their unity. Yet, in his withdrawal lingered a sense that he wouldn't stop not until he found a way to regain control. Suddenly, Sarah realized they had only just begun to battle. As the beat carried them forward, she knew they would need to prepare for anything that might come next. Would they have the strength to keep rising through whatever Mr. Bennett threw at them? And as the last note of the song hung in the air, she felt a rush of both exhilaration and dread. What would their next fight look like? The evening air shimmered with excitement, punctuated by laughter and dancing as the community of Oak Ridge rallied together, solidified by a shared purpose. Under the glow of twinkling lights, there was magic happening. Sarah felt it in every beat of the music, every joyous face around her. Yet amidst the celebration, a lingering fear nudged at her heart. Mr. Bennett was still there, ready to pounce at any moment. Now's our chance, Paul whispered, his eyes scanning the crowd. We've got to capitalize on this spirit. With determination sparking in her soul, Sarah knew it was time to take control. You're right. Let us show him that we're not backing down. A stillness fell briefly as she gathered her courage, every single gaze in the crowd turning towards her. Everyone! She called out, her voice ringing clear and strong. This fair isn't just a celebration, it's a message. We're here for ourselves, for our community. Let us share our love for Oak Ridge with the world. Cheers erupted again, this time underscored with purpose. They would not cower in the shadows of Mr. Bennett's corporate ambitions. They would stand together, hearts wide open, ready to face whatever came their way. I want everyone to gather at the center. Sarah gestured, her heart racing as they quickly formed a circle, a fierce blend of energy unifying them. Let us show him the heart of our town. Together, let us tell our stories. One by one, voices rose amid the laughter, recounting sweet memories of Oak Ridge's cherished past. A local mechanic spoke of fixing cars for generations, a farmer shared tales of growing the community's food, and Mrs. Thompson rose to tell how her flower shop was a beacon of love during hard times. Each story built up the mounting energy. The crowd exuded warmth, filling the air with nostalgia and pride. Sarah's heart soared with every word shared, weaving a tapestry of connection that even Mr. Bennett's cold disdain couldn't sever, and at the edge of the crowd, he stood, an outsider amidst their warmth, annoyance evident in his expression. Sarah caught his eye for a moment, and in that glance, strength poured into her. He was no match for what their community embodied. Remember, Sarah continued, this isn't just about bricks and mortar. This is about family, a legacy that means more than a profit. We're all part of Oak Ridge. Love binds us. We thrive on that love. Applause enveloped her, the crowd's realization turning into something tangible, igniting a spark that spread like wildfire. They weren't just fighting for a bakery or a flower shop, they were preserving memories, connections, and dreams rooted in generations. Just then, as Sarah absorbed the moment, a distant rumble echoed across the square. Gasps rippled through the crowd, and she turned. A pair of trucks rolled down the road, their imposing frames cutting a stark contrast against the vibrant atmosphere. Here he comes, Paul murmured, his voice laced with concern, but fear would not hold her back any longer. This was at the moment to rally, to show they would not be bullied into submission. Stay strong, Sarah shouted, raising her voice above the mounting apprehension. Let us meet this challenge head-on. Our love for this town is unbreakable. Paul stepped next to her, his presence a reassuring force. We've got this, he encouraged, and she could see the fire mirrored in his eyes. As the trucks parked, suited figures began to emerge, looking more like vultures than businessmen. Mr. Bennett stepped forward, his confident stride filled with a sense of ownership over the space. What is going on here? He asked, disdain dripping from his words. This is just a distraction, and you're prolonging the inevitable. Sarah felt a rush of adrenaline wash over her. No. This is our stand. She shouted, each word bursting forth with conviction. We are all part of this town, its heart, its spirit. And we will not let you erase us. The crowd surged behind her, a wave of unity that could not be denied. You think you can waltz in here and dictate our future? Someone shouted from the back. We're here to fight. For our community. And just like that, something shifted. The atmosphere turned electric, filled with a wave of courage as more voices joined Sarah's, chanting for their town, for their lives. Mr. Bennett's confidence wavered as the energy flowed through the crowd, turning into a palpable defiance. This is absurd. He blurted, struggling to regain control, but the tide was shifting. As the chants grew louder, one man's voice broke through the din, together, we are Oak Ridge. With sheer determination, Sarah raised her arms. Together, she echoed, her heart swelling as she saw others joining in. We are Oak Ridge. We are family. With that chant echoing across the town square, something incredible happened. As if a spell had been cast, the unity of the townsfolk broke through the barriers Mr. Bennett had erected. One by one, they stepped forward, their voices turning into a resounding anthem that filled the air with strength and hope. They were not alone anymore, they were a collective force, a vision of love and unity that even the fiercest corporate ally could not dismantle. What started as a small spark with Sarah had grown into an unstoppable fire. In that remarkable moment, Sarah realized that in the face of adversity, her people had risen. Heartbeats synchronized with a common goal, their voices roared, drowning out not only Mr. Bennett but echoing into the very essence of Oak Ridge, reminding everyone of what mattered most, love, family, and community. As dusk settled in, casting a warm glow over their united front, Sarah's eyes sparkled with tears of joy. She was proud of herself, her children, and every single person standing alongside her. This fight wasn't just hers, it was theirs, and they would face whatever came next together. Let us keep fighting. For our dreams, for our bakery, for our community, she shouted, as the crowd erupted into an encore of cheers, solidifying their allegiance. And as they stood tall in the fading light, determined to protect the heart of Oak Ridge, Sarah finally knew deep down, they were capable of anything. They would not be defeated by mere greed or ambition. No one could take away the spirit of their town, not now, not ever. As she turned back to her community and felt the warmth of their love surrounding her, she knew one thing for sure: together, they had the power to change everything. Now, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to our channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that inspire and move the heart. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and share this journey with more people who mean a lot to you. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about the ending, because every word counts and we want to hear from you. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this transformation. Spread the love, let us make a difference together.